start with this. Dana White hated the show. Did you hate the show?
There was I liked the Anderson fight, and I liked the it was okay.
Yeah.
I didn't hate the fight. It was okay.
Yeah, God.
It was okay. It wasn't good.
When I heard Dana say how much he hated, I thought, God, am I that out of touch with this really? Because I didn't leave there disappointed as a fan. I thought there were some interesting matches, plenty of talking points. I thought going into it, some of the matchups were bizarre. For me to put Jacare against Bosch, I didn't get it. I thought, okay, this is a little transparent to me that Jacare is in line for a title shot, and you're trying to preserve that. He needs to go out and get a win, but you gave him a guy that stylistically he should get a win over. I thought that was a little bit weird. Anderson versus Brunson. I didn't get that. I still don't get it. I thought the contest was fine. Brunson, because of the anxiety and being in there with Anderson, his energy got zapped. He went out there. I thought he did what he needed to do. Was that fun to watch? No. Was there things if they rematched and Brunson goes and watches that he'll wishes he'd done different? Yeah, there was. Did he win that fight? Yeah, he won that fight. Did he win the decision? No. You get into the Holly fight. That fight was always a little bit flat for me, but you have to start a division somewhere. You have to. So if you're going to put a title up, it's got to go on top of the card if it's the only strap up on the card. And you go out and you do the contest, and you kind of give yourself a starting point, and we move forward. We got introduced to Jessica DeAndre. We knew about Holly. There was some controversy in the fight with the ref that was a little bit fun to talk about. I just didn't hate the card. And Glover, Glover went out there and fought a hard fight. He's disappointed he didn't finish the guy. Look, that's a tough guy, man. That's a tough guy that doesn't have the same name recognition. You're never going to go wrong with the Jim Miller fight, ever. You're never going to go wrong with Poirier. That was great matchmaking. I just didn't hate the card. I came away and have we seen some more exciting cards? Yeah, but you can say that every time. That's a silly statement. Was that a dud? No, it wasn't a dud. I was happy to give him my money.
Now, this was the first or one of the first fights with the 10-7 round. And it made an immediate impact because now the judges are looking. Here's the problem. Here's the biggest problem. One of the biggest problems that MMA had when it experienced the huge growth between 2000 and say 2006 and 2007 was the refereeing was so goddamn bad. Somebody was getting a Tennessee screw job almost every show. I believe we got past that. It doesn't happen that often anymore. And now you change the rules on these refs and you made them look for something else. The judges. Somebody in the Poirier-Miller fight, one of those judges scored the fight 28-28. There couldn't have been a clearer victory than that fight, which means that judge had to give Miller a 10-8 round for him to come up with that. For him to come up with that nonsense, and that's what it was. Now, some of these fights, and I'll speak on them, as I'm a fan, man, that's all I talk about. But again, so's everybody else. Everybody wants somebody to win. And you watch that fight with that in mind. I thought Anderson won the fight. I thought he won the first 2 rounds. And I thought he lost the 3rd round. And listening to Joe and DC talk, it was a washout. They thought Brunson had it. I watched that fight. I'm rooting for Anderson. I thought he won the fight. I don't think it's a big screw job. Now, the Jermaine Durandamy and Holly Holm fight, that was bad. The biggest punch of the night happens clearly after the bell in round 2, and it almost knocks Holly out. So my question is, since the ref did not call that, what happens if she gets knocked out? It's clear that it was after the bell. And somehow Holly, and again, I'm rooting for Holly, and almost everybody is. It's hard not to root for Holly. She's the nicest person that you see in media. She never has a bad word to say. We want good things for her. Again, I'm rooting for her. I thought she lost the first 2 rounds. I thought she won the next 2, and the 3rd round was up for grabs.
All right. I love that you brought these two things up. Let's start at the beginning with the Brunson-Anderson fight. I thought that Brunson won the fight, but that was not a screw job. And here's the deal. The judges had it unanimous. So you cannot even turn on judging for that when all three of them had it the same way. Two of them had all 3 rounds to Anderson. And quite frankly, it was very close. I think when Brunson gets a takedown in every round and gets on top, I do get the argument that he didn't do a lot there. He stayed on top and not a whole lot happened. But I thought that he won every round. That's one guy's opinion. But I have to wash it and let that go when all 3 judges saw it the same way. So you got to let that go. Anderson wins. You move on to the main event. Here was the biggest takeaway for me. And I do disagree with you on one thing. And this is just up for interpretation. But my interpretation, I did not think it was that late after the bell. The bell had gone off. The referee then steps in. Now, the very first thing everybody has to understand is no fighter has to follow that bell. A fighter has to follow a referee stepping in, and that carries over to wrestling, to boxing, and to MMA, and they are instructed to do that, to fight at all times, to protect yourself at all times. Part of protecting yourself doesn't just mean put your hands up and be ready for a punch. It means to throw punches, and good offense is the best defense. Jessica DeAndre, did she throw that after the bell? Yeah, absolutely. But did she throw it after the referee stepped in? That's the only thing that has to be questioned. Now, with my own argument, yes, I think she threw it after the referee stepped in. However, it was by way less than a millisecond. If you go back and watch that thing a few times, the referee steps in, but the punch is kind of already going. It was very close, and I think that's what the referee determined as well. Of, hey, that's a very close one. I'm going to let it go. Where the problem came in for the referee was the second time she did it, he then warns her, if you do that again, I'm taking a point. Well, that was the again. That was the second time. Why doesn't he just come in and go, hey, you do that 2 more times and I'm going to take a point? There are things in MMA that are illegal, you can be disqualified for, or you can lose a point for, that referees absolutely will not disqualify you or take a point. And I have no idea why. I have no idea where that system came about, where, hey, here's how we're going to do this. We're all collectively going to ignore and then fill in the blanks, whether it's the eye pokes, the fence grab's a big one. You'll never grab a fence and lose a point. Not on your first time. Guaranteed you're getting a warning. You throw punches late. Remember what Pale Horace would do to guys? Some of this ridiculousness, no referee ever steps in, ever. And I don't know that I put the same weight on that referee or say, hey, he was in over his head for a main event. I don't know that I do that because I really did think that it was very close. And as far as that bell rule goes, so everybody can understand this, you do not have to stop on the bell. It is not your job as the fighter. That bell is to signify the referee, who then signifies you. And this came about in the 1988 Seoul Olympic Games. When the boxing was going on, they have 3 rings set up. And, because it's a tournament. So guys have to box 4 and 5 times to win themselves a medal. When you had these multiple rings going, the guy that was supposed to win the gold medal, who was I think he was even in a semifinal bout. He was winning by a landslide. Everything's going great. A subsequent bell went off to one of the other rings, and he stopped. He dropped his hands and stopped fighting. The other guy came over the top and KO'd him. Fight over. And everybody wanted to run it back. Everybody knew there was a mistake made. Everybody knew it was an error. It was extremely clear this guy was the best fighter. He was winning that fight. There wasn't much time left. Blah, blah, blah. The bottom line was his match was going, and he put his hands down, and he got KO'd. That's where the rule, not from the practice room to the commissions to the octagon, that's when the rule changed, and everybody was told, you do not stop fighting ever until the referee steps in. So, Joel, it is important that you understand, and everybody else, the fighter does not stop on the bell. The bell is to signify the referee to go in and stop the fight. I thought, particularly on the first punch, that, yes, the bell had gone off, but the referee stepping in, I thought it was close enough that I kind of saw what the referee saw, which was, I got to let that go. I didn't get in here quick enough. The second time, when Jessica even let everybody know, by stuck her tongue out and then hit herself in her head like, what was I thinking? you got to take a point. I mean, stepping in and saying, hey, if you do it again, which means what? She gets 3 clean shots into Holly's face? No. You can't do that.
Jessica, her name is actually Germaine.
What am I calling her? DeAndre?
No, her name's Germaine DeRandamy.
DeRandamy. All right.
There's no Jessica anywhere in it.
Oh, her name's not even Jessica. Her name is, what's her name?
I think her nickname's Jessica.
Give me her first name again.
Germaine.
Germaine DeAndamy.
DeRandamy.
Well, excuse me. You know, names are important. It's important that we get them right.
Jessica's close, though.
Yeah, well, you got Jeddah Jacek is out there. That's a tough one. I've mastered...
Words are hard.
I've mastered Nurmagomedov over time, but I mean, you know, you got to give us a little bit of a break. And we are being introduced to people. As the original point I made in this, you have to put that fight on to start to establish a division. You have to start somewhere. And you know what? You said something earlier, and I appreciate you saying that, and that was to say we all love Holly, because... boy, we all love Holly. I mean, what a nice gal, what a hardworking gal, and a straight-up competitor. I mean, she got hit so hard, so clean. You know, the punches that happened in the fight that she's ready for, that she's moving, that she's bobbing, those were hard. So imagine when she goes still, starts to put her guard down, is ready to walk to her corner, takes a sigh of relief, if you will, and then gets drilled by the baddest girl in the world at the heaviest weight class contested. Not very many people would have continued. Holly stumbled to her corner, got off that stool early, and started bouncing side to side to get the feeling back in her legs. That is a competitor, and that is impressive.
You know, as you know, she's lost 3 in a row, and the whole world is coming to an end. But the reality is, she lost to Misha. She was winning that fight. She lost a close decision to Valentina, who's now going to fight for a title, and now she lost another razor close decision. So these are the best fighters in the world, but the advice that you gave Ryan last week, you know, an up and comer, is, man, it's not always about winning and losing. In this case, how far does she drop? I mean, she doesn't drop that far in either weight class, whether she's at 135 or whether she's at 145. You know, Holly's a killer, and she's going to get better. So, yeah, we do love Holly. And
well, I agree with everything you just said. And you know, I didn't even know she'd lost 3 in a row. You know, the way she goes out and competes and fights, it doesn't matter. She could have won those fights or lost those fights. I like what you said about the Misha fight. You know, I picked against Misha when she went in to fight Nunes. And it wasn't against Misha personally. It was just, hey, listen, I just watched her get whipped. You can raise her hand and put that belt around her, but I just watched Holly Holm whip her. I watched her get whipped in her very last fight. That happened. So the other side of that coin is, yeah, Holly had a great performance that night. She outfought Misha, but she lost the contest. She lost a position. What was that? The 5th round. Her fight with the Russian gal was a main event fight. It was razor thin, as you said, and it was a main event fight. She then loses this world title fight in a different weight class. So the fights she's competing in are either for world titles or their main events. When and you brought up Ryan, you know, he's fighting for the championship. You know, when you're fighting for championships, when you're fighting in main events, you're still at the top, and they're not all going to go your way. But I did not even realize that Holly had lost 3 in a row, so you just said that. And I do not think the world is coming to an end for her at all. I think she goes to number 3. I think they put Cyborg as the number 1 contender at that weight class. And I think that Holly leaves that weight class. I think she's bouncing back to 135. Where I think she belongs, and she becomes an immediate contender there as well.
Yeah, it's good to see. You know, people talk about who fights at 145 pounds. Well, we don't know those people, but they're out there, and the UFC is going to build them. And so much so, man, you almost see a women main event as much as you do see men right now.
Yeah.
So there's numbers. There's a number person out there that says, hey, they're drawn, and they're drawing a different crowd.
Sure.
And I know we want to get in that market. We want some women to listen to the show.
I'll tell you what, another thing that was very telling was Chris Cyborg's presence at that fight. I can tell you this from firsthand experience. When you are suspended, when you are on a suspension, you are out. You are not on highlight reels. You are not doing interviews. You are not showing up to expos. You are not showing up to events. You are not on camera. You are out. Cyborg is suspended. She was in the front row. She was the most talked about fighter of the entire card. The camera went on her more times than anybody else. And they announced that she was likely going to be fighting DeAndre for the championship next. So whatever is going on with Cyborg's situation with USADA is definitely looking very bright for her. And likely a decision has already been made and just not done formally. And I say that just from being in her shoes and being suspended by them and knowing how it works, she would be on the outs, but she was on the ins. And I think that that's good news for Cyborg. And I thought what she got flagged for was very fugazi to start with. And a lot of times with USADA, it is very black and white, and you don't get to tell your side. It sounds like she got to tell her side and that they listened. And I don't have any more details than that. But it's more than speculation when she's there, when she's on camera, when she's brought up pre-fight, post-fight, and named the next opponent. It's more than just speculation at this point. And frankly, I'm happy about that.
I'm happy for Cyborg too. She's going to get in there, and she's probably going to win that fight. I mean, that's an amazing athlete.